The main character woke up in a strange bed, wondering what was happening and observing the room. Suddenly, someone gasped in surprise. A girl called out his name, referring to him as Jakun, while another questioned if it was really him. A girl announced to everyone that Jakun had woken up. The main character felt confused by the sudden gathering and wondered who all these people were. The main character suddenly remembered who these girls were. One of the girls shouted that the situation was unfair and forbade the others from being exclusive with him. Another girl told everyone to stop, complaining that they were all sticking too close to Jakun. A girl with dark hair complained that even though she was right there as his legitimate wife, she was being ignored. Another girl affectionately added that she had worried so much because he wouldn't wake up. The story shifted back to the past, introducing the king of the demon world, Jah-Kurei. It was noted that several thousand years had passed since he first ascended the throne as the king. It was explained that countless heroes had managed to reach him up until now. However, he had defeated the numerous people who dared to challenge him. The narration continued, describing how the large-scale war between the demon race and humans went on for a long time. In the midst of this war, many human men lost their lives. Over time, the female population became the overwhelming majority in the human world. Even though humanity was on the verge of extinction and could barely leave behind descendants, humanity managed to reach the Demon King once more. They managed to corner him. One of the heroes declared that humanity had finally arrived with a power that surpassed the Demon King. She addressed him as the great Demon King, Jah-Kurei. She told him that he was their greatest and final enemy in life. She stated that with one more strike of the sword, it would all be over. However, she paused and said she would like to see his true face. She then asked her companion, Onna, if she thought so too. A girl agreed, noting that while it seemed he hadn't shown his true face in thousands of years, they wanted to see it at least one last time. Another girl threatened that if he didn't show them, she would shoot his mask with an arrow until it broke. One hero asked if Lovely would like to see his face too. A small girl replied that she didn't care and just wanted to chop his head off quickly, but then admitted that she actually did want to see his face. Another girl remarked that Devious really wanted to beat him to death. A fierce warrior said she wanted to punch the face of the one responsible for turning her life into nothing but battles. The Demon King admitted that they were right. He agreed to show his face at least one last time. As he removed his mask, the 5 girls looked on with expressions of pure shock. The Demon King wondered internally how long it had been since he took off his mask. He noted that few of his subordinates knew his face, and it had been a long time since he even saw it himself. Looking at himself, he wondered if he was just a silver-haired loser smiling wretchedly, calling himself a pathetic thing. He then asked the heroes what was wrong and asked if they were surprised. He explained to the stunned heroes that because he was immortal and youthful, his appearance was similar to their age. However, he reminded them that he was someone who had lived through very long years. One of the heroes gasped, confused, and asked if he was a man. The Demon King spread his arms and asked if they were satisfied. He then praised them, calling them 5 strong and beautiful Valkyries. The girls stammered in disbelief, blushing heavily as they repeated the word beautiful. The Demon King looked at them confused by their reaction and wondered if something odd was going on. The Demon King wondered if he had said something strange, as he had only meant to compliment them. He paused for a moment and realized that the number of men in the human world must have drastically decreased. He thought to himself that these girls were pathetic for living a life without any contact with romance. He told them that there was no avoiding it. Then he told the hero that she could be proud of her beauty. A girl stammered in disbelief, noting that this compliment came from someone who had seen countless humans throughout thousands of years of life. The Demon King asked himself if he should add another word or two. He remarked that if he had won, it would have been a shame to bury such beautiful bodies. A dark-haired girl thought to herself that she probably would have possessed them to make them hers. The Demon King stated that his final words were a regret that he would not be able to see the kind of world that they would create. He shouted that it was no longer possible for him, but once they defeated him, he wished them well in finding happiness as women in the world to come. However, he suddenly noticed something strange. He looked at the trembling hero and asked if she was all right. Suddenly, the girl shouted with joy that she had been proposed to. The hero exclaimed that it was impossible to resist when such a handsome bloke courted her. A dark-haired girl declared that they were going to protect him, to which the Demon King replied that the battle was over. The hero marveled at his composure, saying she couldn't believe such a wonderful man existed. Another girl admitted that although she despised the demon race, it seemed there was a man with good taste after all. A girl with long hair declared that she wouldn't let anyone touch her lovely favorite and refused to finish him off. She concluded that there was no choice but to get married. The girls swarmed around him. One girl told Lovely that she was sticking too close and claimed that Ja-kun was hers. The Demon King, confused, asked what they were doing. One girl stated that since the battle was over, they would announce the Demon King was dead and take him with them for now. He suggested that the five of them discuss who gets to keep him as a husband afterwards. The girls shouted in unison that they had no objection. The girls cheerfully said they would wrap up Ja-kun and take him with them, while he begged them to kill him instead. The hero interrupted, stating that as the leader of humanity's evil, the vanquished general should have an honorable fall. Seeing an opportunity, the Demon King decided that if he was going to be miserable, he would rather end it himself. He yelled at the brat to get away from him as he prepared to self-destruct with his last magical strength. A girl noticed that Ja-kun's body was filling up with destructive magical power. Another girl realized with horror that he was trying to self-destruct. The hero identified that the origin of the magical power was his horn. A mage announced that she would cast a binding spell. The hero agreed and said she would leave the casting to her, addressing her as Shiny. The hero leapt into the air with her sword. She swung her blade down to strike. The narration explained that she cut the horn off with a single stroke. The Demon King thought about how formidable these girls were as he fell. The hero worried she might have made a mistake in assessing her strength, but Shiny told her not to worry. A girl with dark hair noted that he shouldn't have enough magic left to take his own life now. Another girl remembered that Lovely had a good idea. She suggested that as long as Ja-kun was quiet, they could proceed. A girl praised the plan as brilliant. Lovely then suggested that since the horns were uneven, they should take care of the other horn as well. The narration stated that this was the last image he saw in the Demon King's castle. The Demon King opened his eyes and realized he couldn't die. He looked around at a landscape he had never seen and wondered where they had brought him. He noticed a strange jewel attached to his chest. She asked him if he liked the place, describing it as quiet and pretty. He asked the hero where he was and what they were planning to do. Shiny blushed and told the main character that she was not telling him where they were. She explained that it would be trouble for her if he immediately returned to the Demon King's castle. Another girl smiled shyly and said that if he called her Shiny, it would make her very happy. A girl behind her complained that she was such a cheat for getting ahead and getting so close to him. A redhead introduced herself as Divius and claimed that a strong man needs a strong woman. An archer named Lovely introduced herself, stating that while she used to aim to wound Ja-kun's body in the Demon King's castle, from now on she would aim for his heart too. A small girl named Kururu said that she was always watching Ja-kun. A woman named Anist introduced herself and declared that she would serve him with the magical power she cultivated as a legitimate wife. The Demon King looked horrified and thought to himself that perhaps this was the first time in his thousands of years of life that he regretted his own words so much. The hero announced that from that day on, Ja-kun was going to live with them. She admitted that she actually would have preferred to be alone with him, but the narration noted that Ja-Kurei could not accept the hero's declaration. A dark-haired girl remarked that the others were just so persistent. The Demon King looked at them with intensity, wondering if they were even sane. The Demon King stood surrounded by the girls, thinking to himself that it was shocking they wanted to live with the enemy leader they had faced for the fate of the world. He concluded that they were mental and decided that he must escape from there quickly. The Demon King wondered if there was any way to escape from this prison. He thought that even though he had lost his magical power, he could at least run. He observed that there were plenty of trees and rocks around the mansion where he could hide. He decided to escape while they were arguing amongst themselves and mentally said goodbye to the Valkyries. Suddenly, someone called out his name. A voice commanded him to sit down. Against his will, the Demon King shouted, "As you command," as his body forcibly slammed onto the floor. He was confused and wondered what he had just done. He realized his body had moved on its own, completely unrelated to his will. The hero smiled and said that she couldn't let her guard down for even a second. Anist explained that it was a good call to Implanted at that time. She said they took it from the Fire Dragon King just before entering the Demon King's castle. She described the object as the most coercive among all sorcery jewels. She called it the Jewel of Eternal Servitude. Anist added that even though it was incomplete, they thought it would be a good insurance policy just in case. The Demon King realized its power sealed any action, from suicide to rebellion, and noted that its effectiveness was spot on. Lovely commented that although she wasn't sure if it was right to use it on her husband, it was utterly brilliant that they managed to defeat him without hurting his eyes. She added that it also stopped him from attempting to run away or bite his tongue, noting it was made of steel. A girl suggested that since they knew he was safe, they should tell Ja-kun about the house. The hero agreed to reveal the secret, mentioning that the place where Ja-kun was now was thanks to Kiryu-chan's efforts. The hero explained that their location was at the edge of the Kangoku prison region on the continent of Totimotoi. She showed a diagram indicating the Demon King's castle was at the top of the world, while he was now at the bottom. The Demon King was shocked to realize this was roughly the opposite side of his castle. A girl pointed out that Kiryu-chan could use space-time magic, and that if it was a place they had already been, she could get there in the blink of an eye. The Demon King thought to himself that it was the worst location, one with no hope whatsoever. The narration described the location as a place unaffiliated with the Alliance and with little civilization. It was a developing country with low population, which made it perfect for isolating someone. It questioned whether the magical barrier and the remote location were to stop people from entering or out of worry that he might escape even though he was so weak. The Demon King thought to himself that he already knew the place and its surroundings, and that there was another thing that concerned him. The story continued with the girls discussing the aftermath of the battle. One girl asked what had happened with the war. Her companion replied that the great Demon King was defeated, and the heroes had won. Hearing this, the Demon King began to sweat nervously, thinking that if the heroes were gone, the world would not tolerate his survival. However, she added that the 5 heroes, who were the most outstanding in the human army, were also missing. The girl then pointed at him and told him not to worry, noting that the demon army had lost its leader as well. The girl enthusiastically described the chaos of the final battle. She explained that the moment their ultimate attacks clashed, there was a boom and they were engulfed in a mysterious flash that caused both sides to vanish. She clarified that there was a consensus among the 5 of them to act this way, so the outcome of the war remained ambiguous. Another girl added that the human and demon armies were too busy searching for their respective leaders to worry about anything else. The narration shifted to a flashback where one of the Demon King's subordinate generals expressed a strange concern. The general had warned that humans fear immense power, and if the great Demon King were defeated, the world would plunge into an era where humans persecuted other humans, deeming them a greater threat. The hero admitted that those words had bothered her right up until the battle. She explained that before they were branded as the evil of humanity, they thought it would be better to simply be reported as missing. The Demon King looked stunned as the hero declared that finding the man they loved was more important than becoming heroines or gaining fame. The girl smiled and agreed that this was the most important thing for them. The Demon King tried to understand their logic but failed. He noted that they obviously had homes and families to return to, yet their faces were those of young girls in love, and he wondered if they wouldn't feel lonely. One girl cheerfully suggested that since no one passed by, they should go and flirt in the garden. Another girl laughed and proposed using the jewel's power straight away to make him go for a walk. Meanwhile, another girl promised to cook for him until he was full. The Demon King panicked and shouted for them to wait, complaining that they shouldn't order him to go to different places at once. A girl with dark hair suggested injecting her magical power into the gem to make the control spell a bit more hybrid. Another girl teased the Demon King, saying he was sweating because 2 girls were fighting over him, and then declared that he was going to take a bath with her. The Demon King thought to himself that it couldn't be true and that if things continued, he wouldn't even be able to die, noting that one girl wished to sleep beside him and kiss him. He despaired that he would spend the rest of his days as an obedient puppet, suffering endlessly. He realized that the magical barrier extended just a little beyond the garden and that it was impossible to break free from the jewel's power. Desperate, he urged himself to think of an escape route. The Demon King decided to change his strategy. He declared that he had lived for thousands of years and planned to completely shatter their infatuation and disappoint them. He boasted that he had devoured countless beauties from both the mortal and demon realms. Internally, he reasoned that if he couldn't commit suicide because of the jewel, his only option was to manipulate them to kill him. He decided that even if it was a lie, acting immorally would be the most effective way to break them. The Demon King continued his fabricated story, claiming that
that he endlessly took women in turns. He told them that he made them scream with pleasure and violated them. He boasted that he drove them mad, broke them, and amused himself by turning them into flesh dolls. However, the narration revealed that although he said these things, he knew in his heart it was a complete lie. He remarked that he had heard the human expression about how 100-year love grows cold. He thought to himself that in this mere instant, he had managed to extinguish their affection. He then commanded them to direct their murderous intent toward him. The girls, however, looked at him with confused and awkward expressions. One murmured that it was something like that, while another simply called his name. One of the girls looked at him with a flushed face and asked if he really liked it that much. Another girl, blushing heavily, asked him directly if he enjoyed intimacy to such an extent. A girl with dark hair covered her mouth. He started stammering as he asked how they had even reached that conclusion. One of the heroines exclaimed that the situation was simply too ideal. She remarked that in the current mortal world, she had never seen a man with such a voracious appetite for intimacy. The Demon King screamed in panic, begging the girls not to take off their clothes and telling them to calm down for a moment. However, one girl insisted that they should get started quickly. One of the girls declared that they could not let such a beautiful and attractive man get away now. Another girl urged him to come to her, asking him to embrace and break her. The Demon King thought to himself that these girls were already mad in a way, even before he had ever embraced them. The Demon King lamented internally that for some reason everything he did went wrong. He realized that he had made a bad decision again. As he yelled at them to have some shame and to kill him quickly, he suddenly let out a confused sound.
He noticed blood in the air and realized it was not his own. He wondered whose blood it was. The girls looked around in shock and confusion, asking what was happening as they saw the blood. The narration stated that the 5 Valkyries were bleeding. The Demon King looked at their collapsed bodies and thought that, although he didn't quite understand what happened, he had been saved. However, he then hesitated, wondering if he was truly safe or not. The Demon King asked himself what he should do now. He noted that he was in a place where even humans rarely passed by. He reasoned that for demons, who were conveniently located on the opposite side of the planet, to come there was something that wouldn't happen in 1,000 years. He acknowledged that his desperate situation had not changed and wondered again what action to take. The narration concluded that his life of confinement was beginning.